want to welcome y'all to our fourth quarter driver safety meeting. This is the last one for the year. We have with us today Ken Williams. He's an educator of 34 years in the public school systems. He's a motivational speaker now since he retired, and he's got an excellent presentation for y'all. And also with us today, we have from Lockton International, we have Jay Knott with us, and his boss, Steve DeVore, and we're happy to have y'all with us today. And the end of Ken's presentation, we'll have Jay up here for a little bit. He's got a few things he wants to talk to you about as well. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ken. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Well, y'all, right off the bat, I know very little about trucking. So if you think you're going to get a safety speech, you're not going to get one, because I don't know enough to tell you about being a safe driver. But what I'm going to talk to you about is life today. And you're going to think, well, what can a guy talk about life? Well, I think when I get done, you'll figure that out. And hopefully when I get done, I've touched one of your hearts. Now, most of you guys, I can tell by looking, you're pretty tough guys, and you're guys that's worked your way into up and done what you do because you've stuck with it, and you're reliable, and people trust you, or you wouldn't be driving these big rigs. So when I get through talking, if I've touched your heart, I've really done something, and that's what I'm going to try to do today. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. I was a coach for 15 years. I was defensive coordinator and head baseball coach for 15 years up in Amarillo, and swore I'd never go back when I moved away from there. It's too cold, too windy, and too everything. And now we live in Stephenville, and from there I went and became an assistant principal in Amarillo, and then I went to Panhandle, Texas. I'll tell you a story about Panhandle. When I was a principal there, a demonic worshiper, a kid that I'd kicked out of school, shot me 3 times at point-blank range with a .357 Magnum hollow points. And I'll talk about that. From Panhandle, I went to East Texas. Was in the Kingwood area where I was high school principal for about 10 years and assistant superintendent. And one day I decided I didn't want my kid growing up in East Texas, and we decided to move to Stephenville, and I became the high school principal there, and was there 5 years and retired not too many years ago. So that's kind of my background. Also, to kind of let you what I know about life, let you know right off the bat what I know, I've had over 40 surgeries. I've been in the hospital over 100 times. I've been put under over 100 times. I've been told I wasn't going to live 3 times, and I've lost a daughter to cancer when she was 13. So what do you think, well, what can a guy like that tell me? You know, he's got to be the most unhappiest guy in the world. And I'm just the opposite. I look at life now, and I'm so fortunate to be able to be where I'm at. You know, God's really blessed my life. And I'm going to tell you, you're blessed too. Every one of us wake up every day and we have a choice of what we're going to do, including me. And I can wake up and be the biggest butt, or I can wake up and say I'm going to enjoy life. And I'm going to try to do the best I can to help other people around me enjoy life. And so I've decided to have my life be fun and be enjoyable. And I'm not talking I don't work and those kind of things. I'm just saying I want to be happy. And hopefully when I get done, you'll understand why, and why you ought to be the same way. You're not going to be happy every day. That's impossible. And there's going to be days you're actually going to be ticked off. But it's the most of those days to enjoy it. Another thing I'm going to talk to you about is don't let people ruin your day. I found out that, you know, you're driving down the road, somebody flips you off as a truck driver or yells at you or whatever it is. You know, you can let that person ruin your life. Or you can say, you know what, it ain't worth it. And I'm going to go on and enjoy it, because that person is not going to keep me from being happy. And when I was younger, man, it was fighting. I'd get upset and maybe holler back at them or do whatever I wanted to do to them, or stop them, pull them over, you know. And now, man, it's just like water off a duck's back. I don't care. I can't help it if they're that way. And I'm not going to let it change my life. And that doesn't mean I don't protect my family or protect myself or stand up for what I believe in, because I do. But at the same time, I don't have time for that. The other thing I'm going to tell you about is that I have a rare disease that I found out about 5 years ago. The doctors told me, I went to Mayo Clinic, I've been up there 4 or 5 times, and they told me it's not going to kill me, but it's going to wish it did. And I'm running into that now. It eats up your joints and your muscles. It causes severe diarrhea, throwing up, breaking out, getting huge whelps on you. It's all sorts of things. So there's another reason that some days I wake up and I just don't feel like doing anything, but I make myself do it, because after watching my daughter go through what she did, man, anything you can do it. You can accomplish it. And I'm going to talk about your job. And if you're not happy, then you don't need to be here. You know, find something you're happy about and something that you enjoy. And I know that sounds like, well, I can't find another job. I can't do this or I can't do that. Yeah, you can. But if you like this job, act like it. Because, man, you're lucky. You know, I got on the internet and looked up a bunch of stuff about truckers because I wanted to know. I don't have a clue. And I wanted to find out about accidents. I read that there's over 500,000 accidents in the United States a year. 500,000 or more. Out of those 500,000 or more, trucks are involved in only 5,000 of them. Out of those 5,000, truckers only cause approximately 12 to 1,400 of those, or are not causing, but are involved in 12 to 1,400 of those. Out of 500,000. So, you know, y'all know what you're doing. You're doing a good job of it as far as safety goes, and you know what you're doing. So me coming in here and trying to preach to you about being safe is kind of crazy. What I'm going to try to talk to you about is enjoying away from here as well as your job. So if y'all will bear with me, that's kind of what I'm going to talk about. I call it life is what you make it. And I realized a long time ago, after living with a guy that I talked about at lunch and told you about, that was an insurance salesman that was my best friend, who, when he started his insurance company, he was worth nothing. He was living with me in a trailer. We were eating beans and anything we could get. You know, we didn't have any money. I held down 3 jobs while I went to college, and he was starting his business. And when he died, he was worth $3.3 million. And he died flying his plane and had a heart attack in midair and crashed. And that's just him. He died doing what he was happy at. I know he had to be smiling when he did. But Mike Stevens was his name, and I'll talk about him some. This picture, I always start off with it because it kind of tells you about life. I ought to make it bigger, and I didn't, but what this is a picture of a guy during the one of the Iraq wars during that time. And he had come up on a baby that was in a bombed out area, just in like a ditch where a bomb had landed. And the baby, he thought was dead, and he started giving it mouth to mouth and CPR and was holding it right here thinking the baby had died. Well, some medevac came, and they landed and went straight to him. And the baby had been dead, they think, somewhere between 3 and 5 minutes. And the medevac was able to save it. The baby was later adopted by an American soldier, and now the child is somewhere between 10 and 11 years old. What they don't tell you about this picture is the day before, this guy lost his best buddy. So he's in war, he's lost his best buddy, and now he was involved in saving a child. And that's how life is, man. You never know. You never know. You come up on an accident on the highway and you might have a chance to save somebody's life, or you may not. Or somebody might save yours. You never know how life is. And that's why, you know, it's a blessing to be alive and a blessing to do what you get to do for a living. I call them Williamisms because my teachers always said I came up with stupid things, talked about things that never made sense, so I hope I make a little sense today. First thing is y'all take time for your families. That says take time on Sunday afternoon. I know a lot of y'all drive on Sundays, but after I lost my daughter, I realized something. I don't have overs. You don't get overs on life. You know, I'm one of those silly romantics. Been married 34 years, and my wife will tell you, I send her roses when she's not ready. I might get her flowers. I might put a card in her car. I do the same thing with my son. I call him almost every day. He's 26 years old. You know, and when we hang up on each other, we tell each other we love each other. You know, you never know what's going to happen in life. You might be here one day and gone the next, and the same thing with your own kids and your grandkids. So what that's talking about is taking time for your own family. You work, you know, I was just telling you, you know, you work so you can have fun away from work. You work so you can make money to do things you want to do, whether it's fishing or golfing or hunting or whatever it is. You really do. Or old cars you like to do or whatever. And that's why you work, really. I mean, all of us do. And spend time doing that. Find something. Enjoy life. You know, life's more than a job. It really is. But a job allows you to enjoy life. Never deprive anyone of hope. It might be all they have. 2 stories. One is, my daughter came home one day. And actually, she came to my office at the high school, and she had a headache, and within 30 minutes, she was screaming. I mean, screaming. Be a father and you got your daughter in front of you sitting in your truck or whatever, at your house, your car, and they start screaming because her head hurts so bad. My wife was out of town. She's a coach. She coaches here at Stephenville, and this was when we were in East Texas, and she was coaching, was out of town. And so I loaded my daughter up and drove straight to Cook Hospital in Houston. about 45 miles. Within an hour, I found out that she had a tumor in her brain. And she had the rarest form of tumor we found out in the next 2 weeks called multiform glioblastoma. It happens in men over the age of 50. And my daughter was 12 years old when it happened, when she got this tumor. So what do? You know, do you start sulking? You start blaming God? You start hating life? Or you enjoy life for what you have? And we decided to do that. We decided we would never tell our daughter that she was dying. Nobody had ever lived from this. I got on the internet and never found a case of anybody ever lived. In fact, less than 1% of kids had ever gotten a tumor like this. I drove to Waco to study about it and found out that, you know, we were only going to be blessed with her another 6 months. So we enjoyed that time. We did traveling. We took her to Hawaii, the Make-A-Wish Foundation. If you ever get a chance to give money to something, the greatest organization there ever is. But during that time, my daughter showed me what life was all about. We found a notebook she had kept after she passed away, and in that notebook, she wrote about everybody but herself. Now, most of us would feel sorry for ourselves and start being down and everything, but my daughter wrote about a friend of mine that had cancer, prostate cancer, and hoped he got over that and lived. Wrote about her friends and hoped they enjoyed life without her, because she knew she was dying even though we didn't tell her. And this whole book was full of this stuff, and every now and then I pull it out. And she thought about everybody else but herself. And the rest of us, most of us guys, would be so down and thinking about our own selves that we'd be wallowing in our own self-pity. But she never did that. And from the time she passed away, and you talk about hope, she held hope of one thing. And we didn't know it until we read the last page. And the hope was she would end up in heaven. She knew she wasn't going to live, but she wanted to live in heaven with Christ. And that was her hope. And that helped me change my life around. Now, I'm not trying to be a down person here, because I'm going to give you some other things that was really cool that happened during this time, as well as with my friend that I lost. But I wanted to tell you that don't ever take dreams away. Don't ever take hope away. There's always a chance. And I'm one of them. All these surgeries I've had, I've lost 30 inches of my intestinal tract, 3.5 feet of my colon, had my neck broke, my back broke when I was shot. I've been opened up 11 times from here to here. The bullets hit me here and here and here. I have 52 pieces of metal in me from here to here that give me fits from time to time. They told me I'd never walk again. They told me that I wouldn't live 3 different times. And I'm going to tell you stories about that, that each time somebody came to my aid. And it was like an angel that just got on my shoulder each time. And my wife has been a blessing to me during this whole time. The thing I want to talk about is attitude. I learned that attitude is one of the most important things you got, guys. When you come to work, you got a choice every day. You can be down and make everybody else around you be down, or you can be positive about life. And I have chose to be positive. When I got shot, I laid on the floor and I was bleeding to death. And I didn't think I was going to live. And this kid that shot me was a demonic worshiper. He changed his name to Damien, started drinking blood. He took one of my very best kids out, put him in the middle of a pentagram. This kid was my aide, a kid named Frankie Garcia. Put a mini M14 in his mouth and blew his brains out. He wouldn't cut the father, wouldn't let him date his daughter, 250 stitches with a cane razor. Then he came to my house and shot me through my door 3 times. And as I was laying on the floor, I got to thinking I wasn't going to live. And I told my wife, I said, honey, you need to get remarried. And this didn't happen in Stephenville, by the way, y'all. I said, you need to get remarried. You know, I'm not going to live. I'm not going to make it. And my wife does not cuss, except, like I told you, when she plays golf. And that everybody loses their cool when they play. It's like fishing. You lose your cool every now and then. And she looked right in my eyes. She said, let me tell you something, you SOB. You are not going to die. You are going to suck it up, and you're going to live just like your dad did. My dad won a Silver Star 3 days after D-Day. He was under Patton in 3rd Armor, Lieutenant Colonel in the Army, and I can tell you stories about my father you'd never believe. But she said, you're going to live just like your dad did, and you suck it up right now. And I went, yes, ma'am. That's all I could say. And she took 2 fingers and stuck them all the way down in my gut and held them there for 45 minutes till the EMTs got there. And I took 2 fingers and stuck them in this leg. And we found later that saved my life. It took them 19 times to find my femoral, find an artery or a vein to put an IV in. They finally went through my femoral artery down here 19 times. That night they said I wasn't going to live. Well, I did, and fortunately God had another plan, but I found out in life is this. You're going to have things happen to you guys. You're going to have wrecks, you're going to have people holler at you, things are going to happen to you. Your wife's going to get mad at you, you're going to get mad at your wife, things are going to happen. You're going to be mad at your kids. But you know what? Life is 90% what's going to happen to you, and 10%, excuse me, I got that backwards. 10% what happens to you, 90% of how you're going to react to it. It really is. That 90%, if you can react to it in a positive way, you're going to be better off than to take it and become this person that you don't want to be. You know, most of the time when we get mad, we say things we don't want to say. We say it to our bosses, we say it to our wives, our kids, and everything, and then what happens later? Heck, you regret it. Hell, you say, I wish I'd have never said that. And I've learned to try to control those things because I know that I'm going to do things I shouldn't. And I was one of those kids when I was young, y'all. I fought like I had 3 brothers. We fought like you just cannot believe. And I had fights in school and got kicked out of school. I can't believe I became a principal. I really can't. Was suspended from school twice for fighting. I mean, I did. I was one of those kids you just didn't talk to me like you should. You know, you better watch it. And I was going to fight you. And thank goodness I've changed now. I've found a better way. The other thing is listen more and listen to people and quit talking so much. You know, communicate. Let people know what's going on. I'll tell you a story about communication. I'm sitting in my office one day, and a teacher comes down and throws this student into my office. I had just become an assistant principal. She has him by the ear and the back of the neck and throws him into my office, and I look down, he has white breeches on, and he is bleeding profusely from the crotch. I mean, there's blood all over. And I look at the kid, and I look at the teacher, and I said, what happened? What's going on? She said, you won't believe this. She said, I was teaching class, and I was trying to communicate to him that he should act like he should, and to quit acting like he was. And I got on him 3 times, and I finally said, I'm taking you to the office. He stood up, and he zipped down his pants, and he pulled his you-know-what out, and told me to suck on this, and I took my stapler, and I nailed it. Now, I thought she was kidding. It was the truth. She had taken her stapler, the whole thing, and hit him right in the, where most men don't want to get hit. And the kid was bleeding. It got hit so hard. So he's laying in front of me, he's going, it hurts, Mr. Williams, it hurts. And I don't know what to do. I just got a job as assistant principal. I had no clue. My principal was in Florida where his wife was at. And his father had died. And he's down there in Florida, and I'm running a school of 3,000 kids. And I don't have a clue. So I called him, and I start telling him the story, and all he could say, no way, Yeah, and he just starts laughing. And I look over at my administrative assistant named Sam Steen, and he's laughing. So I said, what do I do? And he said, well, go get this nurse right now. So I go have Sam get the nurse. And her name is Harlot, Mrs. Voiles. She comes, and all she does is stick her head around the corner and goes, I don't think so. I'm not touching it. It ain't happening. She goes back to the nurse's office. So the next thing I do is I call the parents. You know, you got to call the parents. Dad's a preacher. The mother's a nurse. Mother comes in, and if she weighs 250 pounds, it's light. She's a big old gal. And she comes in and says, Mr. Williams, can I talk to my son? I said, yeah, no problem. She goes in my office. Well, stupid me, I forget to get my keys. You know, you don't want to leave the keys in the truck. I mean, you know what I mean? Well, I left them in my desk drawer. She shuts the door, she takes her shoes off and starts chasing her son around the desk. And he's hollering, Dad, Mama, don't hit me, Mama, don't hit me. She's hollering at him, knocking my stuff off my desk. Books are flying off of the shelves, and she's hollering at him. And comes out, and she's just sweating. I mean, she says, Mr. Williams, don't worry about it anymore. You're not going to have any more problems with my son. I said, you got to take him with you. She said, I'm not taking him. It's not going to happen. He's staying right here. I said, you got to call your husband. Okay, I'll call my husband. He comes up to school. He says, Mr. Williams, can I talk to my son without you in there in the office? I said, yeah, go right ahead. Guess what I didn't do again? I didn't get my keys. He shuts the door. He goes in there and takes his belt off, starts chasing the kid around the desk again. He's jumping over the desk. He actually goes under my desk and is hiding underneath while the dad's trying to pull him out. And he's screaming, Daddy, don't hit me, don't hit me. Finally, the dad comes out. He's sweating profusely. He's putting his belt on. He's going, Mr. Williams, I tell you, he's not going to bother you anymore. Just take him right back to class. Well, I can't put a kid back in class. It's got white breeches on, bleeding from the crotch. And plus, you know, I'm worried about my teacher. Do I fire or what do I do? You know, I got to send a kid home. Well, they finally take the kid home, and this is a true gospel story. The teacher never gets fired. Nothing's ever said. I don't even get called downtown. The mother and father support me and the teacher, which would never happen today. And we just continued on school like it's supposed to the next day. And I'll never forget, that was my very first lack of communication. And the lack of communication I made was I did not call my superintendent of schools. He found out about a week later, and guess where I was? I was in his office. And I was running around his office going, please don't spank me. You know, I was running around in circles. I thought I was going to get fired, and he was yelling at me. And anyway, I kept my job, and I was lucky. But that's communication. You know, I put don't nag up there because of my wife. Not really. But, you know, y'all don't nag at work. Don't gripe. Don't moan. It ain't worth it. If you got something to say it to their face. And I'll talk about that here in a little while. You know, that's something my wife and I have decided to do. We're going to say it to each other's face if we got something to say. I can't stand people that want to come behind somebody's back and gripe and moan about them, but they don't have the guts to go to their face. And when you're nagging all the time, people don't want to be around you anyway. I've made my life with the friends that I have now are positive people. They really are. And I'm really lucky that way. I've just said I'm not going to be around negative people. I don't have time for them anymore. You know, be a good winner and tolerate losing. We've gotten in a society in Stephenville, Texas. How many of y'all from Stephenville? Any of you? Well, a few of you. Football here is a pretty big deal, you know. And it's gotten where at the school they think if they hadn't won state, they're not successful. Seriously. And that's so sad. It really is. You know, my son played on a year that when Kevin Cobb was here, they were 13-1. And people thought they weren't successful because they should have won state championship. No lie. And that's not what it's all about, y'all. It's about giving your best, doing your best, and being the best person you can be. And we forget that sometimes. We really do. And Stephenville, sometimes we lose perspective on that. But, you know, enjoy life, tolerate it, keep it simple. We've made the Bible tough. We've made everything tough in life. And really, it's pretty simple. You go to work, you get off work, you go home most of the days, you spend some time with your family, and you wake up the next morning, you go back to work. And you get up the next day, and life is a cycle. And then you get those days off that you enjoy so much to be with your family, that much more, and you enjoy them. Why not enjoy those days, those regular cycle days, and say, you know, I'm going to enjoy my job, I'm going to enjoy my life, and I'm going to do what's expected of me. It's kind of hard sometimes, but you can do it and keep it simple. Leave everything a little bit better than you found it. You know, my dad always told me, and I know y'all's dads might have been the same way, if you borrow something from somebody, you take it back what? Better than it was when you got it. You clean it up, you fix it up, you take it back. Well, you ought to do the same thing with your jobs, the same thing with you being a husband or a father or a granddad or whatever. You know, I hope, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit later, I hope when I die, people don't say, hey man, he was a great principal, or he was a great truck driver, or he was a great whatever. That's not what I want. I hope they say, hey, he was a great father. He was a good person. He had good integrity. He was honest. You know, he cared about people. I mean, that's what I hope they think about me when I pass away. I want to be a good principal, and I felt like I was, and I wanted to be a great principal, or in your case, a great truck driver. But at the same time, there's other things that are more important in life. They really are. I tell the story about my kids. I was cutting down some forest area at one time. We lived in East Texas. I was using a chainsaw, and we got through, and we were sitting there, and I talking to my two kids, and I said, you know, let me ask you something. If I died, and try this sometime at home, I said, if I died tomorrow, what would you think of your dad? My daughter, who was about 7 years old at the time, or 8 years old, said, Dad, you're the hardest working person I've ever known. Man, you love those kids up there at school. And my son said, that's right, Dad, you spend all that time up there at school. They must love you. You could have, if a snake would have farted, it would hit me right in the face. I'm telling you, I felt so low I could have played handball against the curb. I thought, my kids are going to think that I'm a hard worker, you know, and that I love the kids up there. You know, what do we want our kids to think? You know, that I love them. And they love me just as much in response. And that I love life. And that I had, you know, Dad, hey, you're an honest kind of guy. You're a stand-up kind of guy. You know, you have the guts to do what needs to be done. And here's my two kids thinking I'm a great worker. And I want them to believe that and know that I am. But at the same time, you know, we men sometimes don't want to talk about love because it's embarrassing. But it's the most important thing we have in our lives. And we forget that sometimes. You know, I'm one of those silly people guys that I send my wife flowers. I put notes in her car. You know, the other morning, she was going, had a game, and they were fixing to play Glen Rose in a district game. And I put a card in her car saying, hey, I love you, I hope y'all win tonight. You might think that's stupid, but at the same time, she walked right back in the house and, man, thanks. You know, I appreciate it. And I've had men say to me, well, I've never done that before, when did I start? You know, I didn't either. I didn't do it for 20 years. Married to her for 20 years, didn't do stuff like that. And all of a sudden I started, and the bad thing now, she expects it. But I gotta do it now, you know. But we have a tendency not to do that kind of stuff. We don't call our kids enough. You know, my kid's 26 years old now. And we forget that we have responsibilities for them, and that we want to make sure that they leave this world better than we left it. And you know, when I get through talking with my son, I tell him I love him. And he tells me he loves me. It's important, you know, to us now that we do that. But he went through losing his sister, and I went through losing my daughter. And it changed us. And I don't want that to have to happen to y'all, some traumatic thing, to do what I found the hard way. Okay, so that's kind of what I'm talking about. The other thing is to be somebody's hero. You know, my heroes in life, and I'm really lucky that I had this, is Christ first. Next is my wife, who not only saved my life, but she's just been there for me when I've been a fool and done things I shouldn't have done, and still supported me, and I don't know why. And then next was my father, who I was so lucky, and my mom. And then down the line, my kids. You know, they were the greatest things I ever produced, ever. You know, bar none. And I bet y'all feel the same way if you married him. You know, I'm just so lucky that they were the way they were, and I'm so lucky I got to spend 13 years with my daughter. But you know, my dad was my hero. He won the Silver Star 3 days after D-Day. Came back, fought under Patton, had 2 tanks blown out from underneath him, won 2 Purple Hearts, worked his way up as an orphan to become a lieutenant colonel in the Army. And we lived in Berlin, Germany for 9 years. My dad came from nobody and worked himself up from nothing to become something pretty important, being a lieutenant colonel in the Army and being in charge of a whole tank division. It's pretty interesting to listen to his life and being under Patton, and then he went to Korea. He didn't see me until I was 1.5 years old. You know, so I was very lucky, and I hope that y'all are the same way. I hope you know who are heroes in our life is? Y'all. How many of y'all got kids? Man, you wake up every day and work to do what for your child? Give them the best chance in life they can, don't you? I mean, you do, man. You wake up and put shirts on their back, you give them food. It may not be the best, you know, there's people that are millionaires and all that kind of stuff, but you work hard at what you do, and you're proud at what you do. And your kids get that reward every day because you do what you do. And I hope they look up to you. And I bet they do. I bet they do. You know, that's what I want when I die. My kids said, you know what? My dad was my hero. I really do. I hope that. And I do get a little excited every now and then. I get a little emotional. But I don't care, you know. I got over that a long time ago. The guy said, you know, you're a man. You ought not cry. Oh, bull hockey. Get over it. You don't like it, tough snot. You know. Last thing, the next thing is this, sing in the shower. I lived with a guy for 6 years who was my model. The first time I moved in with him, I was living with him. And he moved in a trailer with me. We both didn't have a pot to pee in, y'all. We both came from poor, you know, didn't have a whole lot. There was 4 boys in my family, and my dad couldn't pay for my education. I held down 3 jobs in college. I worked as a custodian, I worked in a service station on weekends, and I worked as a waiter when I could at the college. That's how I made my way through college. I played baseball for West Texas State University and football, but when I lost my scholarship due to injuries, I had to go to work. And so the last 3 years, that's how I made it through. And this guy named Mike Stevens lived with me. And the first morning that I woke up that he lived with me, here's what happened. I'm asleep, and I don't have to, we were seniors in college, and I wake up, and I hear this guy in the shower going, and I'm thinking, what the crap? You know, I'm trying to sleep. And then I hear, trailers for sale or rent, rooms collect 50 cents. And he's just singing, you know, little Roger Miller, showering down, butt naked in the shower. Ugly sight if you're a guy, you know. You're sitting, I'm laying in bed and they're going, what the? You know, the guy's in there singing, and he's having fun, and it's 6 o'clock in the morning. He's got to be a sick person. So I get up and I go in, and it's the ugliest sight I've ever seen. He's gotten out of the shower, and he's standing in front of the mirror, and he's looking at the mirror. And he was about 5'8". He was a middle linebacker. And he was about that wide and meaner than a junkyard dog, and he was looking in the mirror. And he looked in the mirror and he said, you know what? You may be fat, you may be ugly, but God loves you. Let's go get him. And all I'm looking at is his butt. And I'm seeing him look into that mirror. And I'm thinking, this guy's sick. He's just putting a show on for me. Every morning he woke up, that's how he was. When he died, he had the largest independent insurance agency north of Fort Worth, Dallas area. It was worth $3.3 million. And his wife inherited all that. And he had a life insurance policy for $1.5 million. His wife was a teacher, is a teacher. She inherited all that, sold the company, worth about $4 million she is now, and she teaches still. Now you think, why would somebody still teach? She loves it. You know, I talk to her about once a week, and she just loves it. You know, and she's worth $4 million. I mean, I wish I had $10,000, you know, to do something on. And I wouldn't teach, I'll tell you that. I don't know what I'd do. But Mike taught me to enjoy life, to sing in the shower. And I did this morning. I was singing in the shower, and I do it to irritate my wife, because she's not a morning person. She hates mornings. She wakes up and she just mopes around till about 10 o'clock. She doesn't wake up. Well, I'm just the opposite. About 2 o'clock in the afternoon, like right now, I need a nap. And she's the type, she's just waking up, and she's a miserable person until about 10, but I wake up and I'm fired up. I'm ready to go. Well, this morning I sang in the shower, and I was hollering. She said, why don't you just shut up? Oh, no, I'm here to irritate you, to make your life miserable. Enjoy it. And, you know, and you can't do that every day. There's days that are bad days. I have days that are horrible days. You know, I'm putting off 4 surgeries right now. I'm fixing to have neck surgery. I'm fixing to have a total shoulder replacement. I've got to have my knee redone, which is replaced. I have a hip replacement that's wearing out. This disease that I have is eating all my joints and my muscles. I throw up normally in most days 6 to 7 times. I have chronic diarrhea where I'm on the pot all the time. I don't eat much because, like at lunch and things of that nature, because I have to run straight to the bathroom. In the last year and a half, I've lost 82 pounds. I could be really upset about life. And I've realized that it ain't worth it. You know, just wake up and enjoy life. Man, I've had a second shot. 3 times my wife's been told to get the preacher. The night that I was shot, you know, I didn't feel like singing in the shower the next morning. I'm going to skip over that one. But I found out that in life, when you have that other shot, you take it. When I got shot that night, I was... they took me to the emergency room in Amarillo, Texas, at Northwest Texas Hospital, and I was laying on the gurney thinking I'm not going to live. And I had never asked this question of any human in my life. In fact, I wasn't a real strong churchgoer. I asked the doctor if he was a Christian. Now, why? I don't know. You know, like my dad used to say, there's no atheist in foxholes. He said, I found out in Europe when we were in tanks, and these Sherman tanks were being blown up right and left because they ran on gasoline, and the Tiger tanks, they ran on diesel. He said, when I was seeing all the tanks blown up around me and I had 2 blown underneath me, I learned real quick, man, you better have something stronger than what you got. You got to have somebody on your side that's stronger than you. And me, it's God. Well, that night, that happened to me. And I asked this doctor, I said, are you a Christian? He goes, well, I went to Baylor University. I said, listen, I got some buddies that go to Baylor University and went to Baylor University, and they drink like a fish and cuss like a sailor, and they're not Christians. I can tell you that for a fact. He said, no, I'm a Christian. And I said, well, then you can operate on me. Otherwise, you're not operating on me. You know, I'm sitting on a gurney fixing to die. The best ER doctor they got is fixing to operate on me, a 14-hour surgery, and I'm asking him if he's a Christian. You're not going to operate on me if you don't. What was I going to do if I told him to hit the road? I don't know. For some reason, it all worked out. And y'all, I was one of those lucky people. You know, I go to speak at churches. I've been lucky enough to speak in front of as many as 10,000 people and as few as 10. And when I speak at churches, I go into a long talk about things that happened to me that night. But I'll tell you most of all what happened to me that night. I had a power that came into my body that you cannot believe. I saw a white light that was pure peace. Pure, pure love. I saw my body coming back to me. And I could get into detail of what happened that night that you just can't believe. But from that point in my life, I changed. I decided to be a better father, a better Christian, and a better person. And it took that to change me. And it's a shame that it takes those things sometimes to change us. And I realized that I had more important things in life than myself and my job. And that's what I'm talking to you about today. You know, don't gossip. Don't spend time gossiping about stuff. Does it accomplish anything? It doesn't accomplish a thing except hatred and malfeasance. And you know, what good is that? You know, what good is it for people to just gripe about things? And my dad always put this up there for me, and he told me as a young kid, you can't say it to the face, don't say it. And I live by that motto as much as I can. If you don't have the guts as a man to come to my face, then don't say it behind my back. Because if I find out you're saying it behind my back, that's a different story. And how many of those type people have ever you found out when you go to them and you know they've been talking behind your back and you come up face to face with them, what happens to them? Oh, I didn't say that. You know, they don't have the guts to say it to your face. Well, have the guts to say it to your boss's face or to say it to your friend's face or whatever. You know, have the guts to do the right thing and own up. I've run into too many people in my life that don't. Don't refuse homemade brownies. People say, that's the stupidest thing I've ever seen anybody put up on a board in my life. Why would you say that? Y'all, I love brownies. And what I love is love. You know, when I was a principal, I used to get brownies all the time from the kids because they know I like brownies. And I told the story last time, I won't spend a lot of time on it, but the assistant principal used to steal them from me. He'd find out how to get brownies, he'd go in my office, steal them, and eat them. I always wanted to put X-Lax in them. I really did. I don't know why, I just wanted to one time. He maybe wouldn't steal my brownies anymore, but I never did it. But I found out, you know, what these kids were telling me is they loved me and they appreciated me. And here's what I found out in life. People will do more for you. You can discipline your kids more. You can get along with your wife more if they know that you love them. Simple, cut and dry. Pretty simple. You know, God loves us more than anything there is. And when I'm the dumbest person in the world and do the stupidest things, He's still there for me. And so is my wife, because she knows that I love her. And we've been through some tough times, I'm telling you. But never refuse homemade brownies. Never, I mean never, eat a fruitcake. I don't know why I ever put that up there in the first place. I got a fruitcake from somebody one time. Does anybody like fruitcakes? You see, you're sick. I told the guy last time, he's sick. You're just a sick person. Okay, what happens when you eat that stuff? It constipates me. I mean, you eat a fruitcake and it sticks down there, it's like lead. And it just grows and it just gets worse, and then it starts festering down there. You can feel it. And next thing you know, you got gas. And then you got diarrhea, and then it's horrible stuff. So don't give anybody a fruitcake. I don't like them. There you go. And I don't know what type of person you are. Probably nobody likes you. But give them fruitcakes. You know, that's what I found out about fruitcakes. I don't know why I ever put that up there. I just did. Don't postpone joy. What I found about this, how many of y'all got kids? How many got grandkids? My gosh. Golly. You know, guys, see them. Go watch them play t-ball. Go watch them play baseball. Go to watch them play soccer. Don't miss because of your job. You know, if you got a good boss, if your kid's playing in a big game or whatever, they'll understand. They'll get somebody to drive for you if it's not necessary. And if they don't, they're not a very good boss. You know, our kids come before our jobs. And I used to tell parents this all the time. You know, get up and talk in front of 1,000 high school kids and their parents. And boy, you can't spit. I mean, you're hoping you don't say something really stupid. But I always told them this every year. I want you to understand something from the get-go, folks. My kids, my children, come before your children. Now, I don't want you to take that wrong, parents. I want you to understand I love your kids. But if I can't love mine first, how can I love somebody else's? And the same thing about your grandkids, man. Don't miss what they do. When my daughter passed away, the first thing I realized was this: there ain't overs. There ain't no overs. I missed things that she did. Played basketball. You know, as an 8th grader, she averaged 17 points a game in basketball, and I missed 5 or 6 of her games. What a shame. And I never got to see those again from that day she passed away, you know? And the same thing with your wife and your whatever. If they're doing something important, go see it. And I think your bosses will understand those things. State tournament in soccer. You weren't going to miss it, were you? What was more important, your job or state's tournament that day?
State tournament.
Dang right. You don't get overs, guys. You don't. The job will wait. Don't postpone it. Do more than expected. Simple, guys. Come to work, do more than expected. You know, one of the things that my teachers knew, they knew that they knew that, by gosh, you better do more than you expected. I had one teacher ever tell me, well, that's not my job. When I asked her to do something, it wasn't part of the job, but it was part of working with kids. And that was probably the upset I've ever been in my life. Do more than expected. You know, when you leave this world and you look back on it, I hope people know that you did more than was expected from life than you had to. Not only at your job, but at home, with your kids, with your family, everything. You know, do more than you have to do. It's not that much harder. And I'll tell you what, you feel good about yourself. You really do. Never, I mean never, give up on miracles. I'm one of those. You know, the last surgery I had, right here at this hospital, my wife had to rush me to the hospital. I was throwing up this black stuff, and it was horrible. I mean, I got really sick. Found out that I had a blockage in my intestinal tract for the 9th time. And when I got in there, they came out during the surgery, the doctor did, and Dr. Irk, he said, Patty, I need you to know that we don't, Ken, he's probably not going to make this. You know, you need to get Brother Dan. Well, after an 8-hour surgery and 31 days later, the Lord had a different game plan for me, and I was able to live. The night that I was shot, I didn't think I was going to live. Over 250 people showed up the night that I was shot, and they prayed for me at Northwest Texas Hospital, and they brought all sorts of things. One of my high school wrestling coach, I wrestled in high school and played football and baseball, and he brought a statue of Jesus, and he went to and found the doctors and basically made them take that statue into the operating room. His name was James Kyle, meanest sucker I ever knew in my life. Ex-Marine drill sergeant, and he was my high school coach, and I was scared of him, and I still am. And he's 75 years old and still scared of him. And they made them take that in there while I was being operated on. And I found out that you influence more people than you ever think. You do it at church, you do it at school, you do it at home, you do it in your job, and you never realize until you need people that they're there for you. And you're lucky that you know folks. And if you're the type person that doesn't have a great attitude and a good attitude when you come to work, and people look up to you and don't think of you as a good person with integrity, they're not going to show up. And it'd be terrible to live through life on your own when you're in that ditch and you're trying to fight back like I was the night I got shot. You know, I had a kid that I coached in high school, at Paladera High School in Amarillo. His name was Cal Hero. Coolest name I've ever known, Cal Hero. That's a football player, man, right there. Well, Cal was living out in Alaska at that time. He called over 30 times when I was in ICU. And that was back before cell phones, where everybody could get a hold of you. And they had to stretch all these cords together, and I couldn't talk. I had 11 tubes coming out of me. I had a deal going down my throat. You know, they were pumping my lungs and everything, trying to keep me alive. And they put the phone to my ear. And all Cal wanted to tell me was this. He said, Coach, you always said, if you get your ass knocked down, you better get it up right then, whether it's in a football game or in life, because you may never have another chance. And I just want to tell you right now, Coach, it's your turn to get it up. You better do it, so suck it up. And he hung up. That was it. You know, and I'm laying, I can't talk, I can't say anything, and I'm wanting to go say something back, and all I know is he got me fired up. That was another person that was there when I needed them. Because I was able to give my part of my life to them, they were willing to give it back. And that's what life's all about, y'all. That's what it's about. And I'm here to stand as a miracle right here in life. Man, it's so cool that I'm able to stand up in front of you. I just thank God every day. A couple of things I want to end up on. Don't blame others, take responsibility for every day of your life. We're living in a society right now where people want to blame somebody else for everything. You know, we were talking at lunch. There's so many people that could work. You know, you're looking for truck drivers and people won't fill it because they'd rather stay at home thinking they're entitled and get government money. You know, we're living in a place that people don't want to be responsible and take responsibility. And it's getting worse and worse in the United States, and we're losing who we are. We really are. I believe that. You know, the United States is the greatest place on the face of the planet. And it was made that way through capitalism, not socialism. And it was made that way because we believe that if you work, you can get ahead. You can make something for your life, you can get something for your kids, and they can be better than you are. And that's the whole saying about taking responsibility for your life. Do it. When you mess up, let your kids know. They know you're fallible. They know that you mess up. But enjoy life, but at the same time take responsibility for it. The next one is this. You know, I sat there and asked my kids that day, sitting on that stub, what do you think of me? You know, and they said, Dad, my oldest daughter, Dad, you're the hardest worker. And my son said the same thing. Boy, Dad, you're a hard worker. You love those kids at school. You know what? I wish they'd have said, Dad, man, you care about people. You're a fair person. You have integrity. You know, you're a trusting person. You're there for us. Instead, they said I'm a hard worker. And I'm away from home all the time, and I care about those kids up there more than I do them. And I changed that day. I really did. And I hope when you die, have you ever thought about that? Have you ever thought about when you die, what are people going to think about me? Have any of y'all ever thought that? The older you get, the more you think about that kind of stuff. I guess it's just part of getting older. I don't know. When I was young, I thought I was infallible. I never thought of that kind of stuff. But now I do. And I wonder, when I'm gone, what are people going to think? And, you know, you might think, well, that's not important. But it is. Because you're leaving a legacy for your kids, and they're leaving a legacy for their kids, and it goes down in generations. And it's so important for us in the United States to leave a legacy that we are hard workers, that we come to work every day because we are hard workers and we believe in what the American dream is. And I believe that. You know, I always thought I'd be a good politician because I believe in all that stuff. I'd love to be standing on the platform tonight fighting for what I believe in our country. I really would. But that's a different story. Last thing I want to leave you with is this. You know, I think you have to believe in something. In my case, I believe in God. I think I started that strength that night I got shot, and I've never changed that since. But I want to leave you with this, and that's attitude. I believe that the longer you live, the more I realize the impact of attitude on life. I really do. I also believe that no matter what, attitude is more important than anything else. It is. There's no doubt in my mind. And I know I don't read this by the way it is, but it's more important than the past. It's more important than education. It's more important than money. It's more important than circumstances, than failures or successes. I really believe that. It's more important than appearance, how you look, how gifted you are, or what kind of skills you have. Your attitude's more important than those things. It will make or break this company right here. That's the attitude you truckers have. No matter who owns this business, if you don't have a great attitude and you don't come to work with a good attitude, it's not going to make it. And it starts from the top down and the bottom up. It meets halfway. And if you don't have a good attitude, it ain't going to work. I've seen it kill companies. I've seen it kill churches. I've seen it kill homes. Having a bad attitude when you get up every day. The remarkable thing is we have a choice every day regarding our attitude to embrace that day. I really believe you have a choice every day. We can't change the past, and y'all, every one of us is screwed up. I just can't tell you how many bad things I've done in my life. I've done some bad things, but I don't care anymore. I really don't. I'm going to look to the future, and the neat thing is, the only thing we have to play is the string that we've been dealt. And that is, I'm convinced that life is 10% what happens to me and 90% how I react to it. I believe that, y'all. I do. I hope that you got something out of this today. I've been lucky and blessed that I'm here. You're lucky and blessed that you work for a living, that you got a job. And sometimes you don't think you are, but you are. And you're blessed that you have grandkids and kids. And what I'm telling you is wake up in the mornings and realize that when you look in the mirror, that you are blessed and that God's given you a chance to be the best person you can be each day. Hey, I appreciate y'all letting me talk to you.
Thank you, Ken.
You bet.
Jay, we're ready for you.
All right, Ken, thank you. That was a great, powerful message. Appreciate you sharing it. A lot of you guys have probably seen me from time to time. I've been coming out to Western Dairy for, gosh, about 4 years now, and have spoken at many of these driver safety meetings. Have certainly been through the shop here in El Paso and Portales and Cotuí from time to time. But a lot of my job at the end of the day is really to help you all get home safe. And I know that that's really what Bob Smith's job is as well. And Roger, I think, has stepped out too, but that's Roger's job also. And our job is to help you get home safe at the end of each day, because I know you all have a more important stop than that last pickup or delivery that you've got. You want to be home with your family and home with your grandkids or doing what you like to do. Well, that's my job, is to help you get there safe. And I wish I could say that I was doing a better job for you, but I can't. There's some areas that frankly, for me to do a better job, I really need your help in. I've got a whole stack of statistics here in front of me, but The last 2 years, there's been 140 driver injuries here at Western Dairy, and that's way too many. Does anybody know what the most common way a driver gets hurt at Western Dairy? Anybody know some of the common ways? How about getting in and out of the truck? You know, the most common way that a driver gets hurt at Western Dairy Transport is by stepping out of the truck the wrong way. If we step out of the truck and you're facing away from the cab, you stand a good chance of slipping and falling and twisting a knee or an ankle or your back when you hit the ground. If you're facing the cab, you can hold on to the cab with 2 hands and have a foot up there as well, or if you have to let go of a hand, you can have 2 feet on the steps. If you're facing away from the cab, you can't do that. You don't have those 3 points of contact. Now what happens if you step off of that truck and you've gone the wrong way and you slip on that last step and you step into a hole and you've blown out your knee? Well, what does that do for you when you get home? Now, that makes it less possible for you to participate in life at home and take care of those kids and take care of those things that you need to do when you get home. So it's very important that we get in and out of the truck facing the cab, use the 3 points of contact so that you can do that. The second place that drivers get hurt the most is in vehicle accidents. And that's probably the most likely way that we're going to have somebody killed working at Western Dairy Transport. Now, there is no worse call that you can get as a manager, a safety director, whatever that may be, to have to call somebody's wife to say they're not coming home tonight. So please, 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 there's 2 things that I need you to do so that you don't have that kind of an accident. The first thing that I need for you to help me with is, number 1, make sure that you're keeping adequate following distance between your truck and that vehicle that's out ahead, okay? When you're following behind somebody, I want you to make sure you've got at least 4 seconds of following distance between your truck and that vehicle ahead. When that vehicle ahead, I don't care if it's a truck, a passenger car, a bus, whatever it is, when it passes a stationary object, a bridge column, a sign, something that you can see just stationary on the side of the road, I want you to start counting 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004. If you don't get to 4, you are too close. If you run into the back of a vehicle, you stand a very high chance of getting hurt or killed in that accident. Also, what happens if you run into a smaller vehicle from behind? You stand a good chance of hurting or killing somebody else. So please, please, please make sure that you've got that adequate following distance. The second thing I ask that you do every single time you get behind the driver's seat is make sure that you buckle that seatbelt. If you're not buckled in behind the wheel and you get into a situation where, let's say your attention drifts a little bit and you accidentally drop a tire off the side of the pavement, or you're at an intersection and a car comes across and runs a stop sign. If you get bounced out from behind that wheel, how well can you control that vehicle? The reality is you can't. You get knocked out from behind that driver's seat across the doghouse onto the passenger side, you're not coming back. Got to make sure that you buckle that seatbelt every single time. Okay? So if you could do those 3 things for me, make sure you've got adequate following distance, wearing your seatbelt, and getting in and out of the cab, facing the cab, that's going to help you from getting hurt and making sure that you get to your most important stop. Okay? I thank you for your time this afternoon.
Thank you, Jay.